happy gotcha day for Mr. Darcy. My daughter found Mr. Darcy in the woods sort of behind our house, and she came and got me, and as soon as I saw him, my eyes turned to hearts, and it was instant love. But this little puppy was afraid of everything. He stayed in my shed, and he would just keep his face to the corner. He was so scared. I would try to hand feed him. I finally got him a dog bed. He peed all over me. No big deal. I'm a nurse. Humans have done worse on me. But he really was scared of everything. After the first and second night, he was still scared, but there was some improvement. He would sneak a little peek at me, and he was eating the puppy chow that I would soak in cream to get him to eat it. He really liked the cream, but he did not like those big bowls. The big bowls were scaring him for some reason, so I was just feeding him one little piece at a time, trying to coax him into eating. I decided to put it in a small bowl, and that worked perfectly. He was not afraid of that small bowl for some reason. So from then on, until he got more used to bowls and the concept of bowls, I would just feed him out of a small bowl, and that worked. On day 3, it was so hot in the shed. Even though it was in March when I found him, it was hot. I took him into my art studio where I had a little dove. Her name was Lovey. She was crippled in one leg, and I just let her free fly around my studio. I had her for a number of years. I rescued her as well. He started to come around. He would kind of half-heartedly peek at me and just kind of look around. Lovey fell in love with him. She thought that he was there to be her mate. She never left his side, but as you can see, he was terrified. She tried to groom his little paws. She was constantly going at him. She just loved Darcy. She was just enamored with him. I think her little eyes turned into hearts when she saw Darcy, but he was truly her love interest. And Mr. Darcy was such a gentle soul with her. She would flutter her wings and try to get him interested in, maybe going for a little date. He was not interested. He was way too young and probably not the right species, but she had great interest in him. I started calling them Romeo and Juliet. They're just two star-crossed lovers. But he was really good with her. I never had to worry about him trying to hurt her. They would cuddle up together. They were just fast friends from the get-go. Then on day 4, he's making some progress. He's starting to sniff me. He's still really scared. You can see him looking around. Oh, that yawning, that's a sign of nervousness. And a lot of people don't know that, but when dogs do that, they can be pretty nervous when they're yawning. I kept trying to give him little bits of food to coax him out. I wanted him to learn that I was safe. I just wanted him to come to me, and I didn't want to crowd him too much. But as you can see, he was terrified of me. That's salmon. That's some salmon I had roasted in the oven for him. He can smell it. He wants it, but he's terrified of me. And as you can see, he was still just a baby, but he did finally work up the nerve, and he was like, oh, this is some good stuff right up here. Oh my goodness. So he was like, now that wasn't too bad. So then he started watching me close. He's like, she has good stuff. And he started learning, and he started eating. By day 6, he was doing even a little bit better. He actually let me pet him, although you can see he's trying to kind of dodge away from me. He's really afraid. He won't look at me. But he is letting me pet him. Now, I didn't tell you the first day that I found him, I picked him up by the scruff of the neck to put him in my shed, and the little bastard tried to bite me 3 times. And right then I knew, this is my dog. This is the dog for me, because as little as he wasn't putting up with nothing. But he did start to come around. He let me pet him. By day 8, you can see in some of the pictures just how skinny he is. Lovey is still trying to court him. She wants him to come out of his crate. I had to put up a little barrier. You see that yellow, those bookbinder things I had to put up because she kept poking, trying to climb in between the bars to get inside the crate with him. That bird loved this dog. And he's starting to kind of come out of the crate a little bit. He's getting more brave, but that crate was his safe spot. He just loved his crate. He was so skinny. It just hurt my feelings to see how little and scrawny he was. But he was starting to kind of, see that things weren't as bad. And we started on day 9. Day 9 was a good day. He was skittish. I found a ball. We started playing. This was the first day he actually started interacting more like a puppy. He was still wanting to stay in his crate. That was just his safe spot. But he really, really loved that ball. That was like, oh, when I got that ball, he's like, you are my bestest friend. I thought it was going to be food that brought him around. No, it was just a regular tennis ball. And he played with that thing. Then he started coming out. Then he actually started playing with me outside of the crate. I just had some paper towel there, and I let him tear it up. He loved that. He let me pet him. This was a good day. Then something miraculous happened. Jessie, my daughter, came in and scared him and spooked him. He started to bark at her, and instead of running into the crate, he scrooched up next to me. Look how little he is. We're sitting on one pillow. We could share a pillow at that time. He scrooched up to me for his protection, and I'm telling you, my heart melted slap down into my shoes. Day 11, we're getting there. I said, he's been inside so long, I'm going to take him out by the pool, let him see what's going on out there, give him a little time. And he was very nervous. You see, he did not want to leave my lap at first, but I kind of encouraged him. He was cautious of everything. Everything was scaring him. He didn't know, what to make of all these things. He wanted to explore. He did a little bit. Then he started sniffing the steps. He's like, oh, and then he found a toy. And that was this dog loves to play, y'all. He found that toy and he started having a ball. So he's starting to warm up. He's getting more confident. He found a toy. It's actually we had 2 other dogs at this time. One passed away shortly after I found Mr. Darcy. And Girly, she passed away about a year ago. But he was having a good time with that. He's just such a good little puppy. Just look at that face. He was just like, I found a toy. It's my toy. Now we're jumping ahead to day 21. And by now, I think it's time to introduce him to Girly. I just mentioned her. She's an English bulldog. We love that dog. We had her since she was a tiny puppy. She quickly put him in his place. He tried to attack her. His little hackles were up all the way down his back, but she wasn't having any of that. She was like, look, I'm the boss hog up in this house. But he tried. He nipped at her, but then he decided she might be a little bit much for me. And Girly has always been the alpha dog. Well, then Girly decided she kind of liked him, so she tried to get him to play, but he was so afraid of her. I mean, she outweighed him by, 60 pounds? I'd be afraid of her, too. And she looks like a little tank coming at you. But she really loved him. She actually fell in love with him, too. They became really good friends. He wasn't as afraid of her. She never hurt him playing. And, but now they did get into a fight or two, but they did become best of friends, and he just loved her. So I started letting them go out into what I call the big yard that's outside of the pool area and let them play ball, let them play fetch. And Girly was so happy because Girly was always a playful dog, and our other 2 dogs were way older than her, so they didn't play as much. So when Darcy came, she was in heaven. She had her own little play partner. He was in heaven, and it was just going really well. Then the first month hit. The dog hadn't had a bath yet. Well, I gave him a sink bath early, right when I first found him, but wasn't a good bath. So look how little Mr. Darcy is. Him is just in the sink. He is so little. So I want to put him in the sink, washed him up, his first real bath. Got to get all up under there, all up under his chin, under his little chest, rinse him off. He didn't seem to mind the bath. And then we just dried him with a towel. He was a little bit scared as I lifted him out. Now, 6 months later, we had to start working on Coop. And Darcy tried. He would try to play with him. Coop would try to play a little bit. They were starting to warm up to each other. I wouldn't say they were best friends, but they were getting to be friends. Darcy still was a little afraid of Coop. He wouldn't let Coop pet him, but he would try to play with him and play with Girly. But he was still a little bit scared. Like if Coop would bend down to try to pet him, he would run. He was afraid. Then they became best friends, and he started trying to help Coop make tea at the sink. And yes, he's got a belly band on. Darcy pissed on every chair that I had when he was a puppy, trying to mark his territory from Girly, little buzzard. Then he noticed that Coop had a pumpkin whoopie pie, and that dog loves pumpkin whoopie pies. He snuggled under Coop's arm. Coop started to feed him, and I really think at that moment he won Dr. Death. That's what we were calling him back then. He won him over. You see, he's sneaking him food, and then Darcy started riding in the car. He got his own spot in the car. I started taking him shopping with me, and he was such a good boy. Such a good boy. Look at those toys. You want to pick you out a toy, huh? Want to pick you out a toy, huh? You're such a good boy, riding in there. You a good boy. And once we won Coop over, it has been heaven since. Darcy gets to sit by the pool. He got to relax in the car with me everywhere we went. This dog has been to the mountains. He's been to the beach. He's been to Athens, Georgia. He goes on every vacation with us. He goes almost everywhere with me. This is him when we were down at Tybee Island in our little B&B, and the kids are playing with him. And that is my Jessie and her boyfriend Hampton. He was loving that vacation. He gets to just lounge around, and I promise you, as long as I've got breath in my body, this dog will never be hungry again. He's never going to be afraid again, and he will always, always, always be loved.